Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for coming.
Here we are. We never really imagined we would bring it to something like this.
That we would get Rick on center stage.
To be on stage where I love
girding.
Yeah.
What I like to describe Portland as is it's the DIY-ification of everything. These incredibly thoughtful and creative and talented individuals that have had to pave their own way.
It's a little more lighthearted and it's a little more creative. It's not all around the money. There's that great aspect when that does happen, but I think folks here just have a slightly different focus.
The imprint that the Portland community provides is one that encourages quality of life and does not promote working 80 hours a week, and more encourages a strong family and working effectively and intelligently.
Portland is a maker community. It's one of the top Etsy communities. It's one of the top Kickstarter communities.
There's this idea of craft here that really is not present in other places.
And I think that's really been hammered into the startup ecosystem here, is you don't just go raise $25 million with, an idea and then see if you can turn it into $1.
Unfortunately, the access to the next round is harder here because there just are very few local venture capital firms that have the capacity to do anything beyond a Series A.
The entrepreneurs in Portland should be focused on creating and leading this vibrant activity with a long-term view. If you sustain this current iteration for the next 20 years, I would assert strongly that there will be lots of investors who take Portland seriously. That's a function of those companies, not a function of us deciding, Portland must be important because of whatever.
Clearly this city is going through another phase. Clearly it is reaching for a next plateau in terms of creativity. It's done the creative class thing, it's known around the world for that, but now what? So what? You have a strong creative class. Show me what you're made of. Show me what you can do.
Here you have a lot more people that are self-taught. Honestly, I think that leads to much more compelling and interesting product at the end of the day because they're coming at it from I'm building what I would want to have, not the way the textbook told me I should do this. I think we will trickle the other direction. That's sort of our influence here. You're going to see that more and more as accepted in Silicon Valley as you see more companies become successful from less sort of traditionally educated people.
Portland, Seattle, Boulder, Austin, these are great examples of cities that are very oriented around this notion of the creative class. And, a big part of that is this idea that you have to be open to weirdness, that you have to allow people to be however they want to be. Having a tight density of these types of people create amazing things. I put entrepreneurs in this mix. Being open to weirdness is super important because it's where the new ideas come from, the stuff that isn't traditional.
And I always felt that there was a lack of respect for a software engineer as a creator or as sort of an artist.
There's an elegance to it that a lot of people don't consider. When I see what my team puts together, it's beautiful to me.
So first of all, Mozilla, you may have used their browser Firefox. Well, we are a mandatory step before each Firefox for Android release.
A crappy coder writes 10,000 lines of code. And a really good coder makes something that's super elegant, that's 100 lines of code or 20 lines of code that everyone can read that is then used as a core in everything else. That's beautiful. It's a beautiful shaped object, even though you can't see it when you use it as a user. As a programmer, if you look at that, wow, that's clever and elegant and beautiful.
Even if you go back to the 1950s and you look at the guys in their white shirts and their ties, in front of the gigantic mainframes, they were still different.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure you've noticed There is a lot of stuff on the internet these days.
A lot of folks go to movies to watch people make decisions. Whoa, look at that. Oh my God, they just did that? Wow. And you sort of have this 1.5 hours where they just make these crazy decisions and this incredible narrative unrolls. Well, startups get to do that hundreds of times a day.
You end up compressing 10 years of life into 1 or 2 years because you have to create something for yourself. And I don't think I'll be able to take a regular job ever again because this is everyday life. The highs are so high and the lows are so low.
There is nothing as infectious as talking to people who are passionate and enthusiastic about what they do and feel and believe that they can make an impact on the world.
One of the wonderful things about an entrepreneur and one of the big detriments from an entrepreneur's standpoint is that they just absolutely believe that what they have built is the best, most wonderful thing that's going to change the world. And you have to feel that way as an entrepreneur to survive how painful the process is.
My advice to the entrepreneur always is focus on building something that's awesome, that you are completely obsessed and passionate about, that does great things and makes money on the arc of the business. Doesn't have to make money at the beginning, but has the potential to make a significant amount of money. That's an interesting business.
Very often the companies that we've picked were not necessarily for the idea that they came to us with. It was for the team that we saw coming in. We saw a group of people that we hoped and believed, based on our experience, would take input, would be thoughtful about what they were doing, would respond to both criticism and user experience in different ways, and allow that to evolve what they did to create something even more potentially interesting than what they'd even imagined walking through the door.
The investors, by and large, are investing in you as an individual.
There are some people that they have been part of 3 or 4 failed companies before, and now they're doing some of the top companies. And it's because they were allowed to figure out how things work and how they don't work.
We're used to generating perfect work, right? It only ships once it's done. Startup culture is almost the exact inverse model, right? We talk about execution versus iteration.
Don't wait until something is perfect and then put it into the world or tell that story, but test it, see if it works. If it does, roll with it and continue to improve it. And if it doesn't, then you got it out there early and then you can go back and reconfigure.
The course is not a straight line from beginning to end. It's a journey that's very complicated with lots of ups and downs and lots of success and failure along the way. The more you try to shove it into some set of characteristics or some set of activities over time, the less chance you're going to be successful. I mean, you have to be able to sort of roll with whatever's happening and constantly be recalibrating what you're trying to accomplish.
That's it. Those are the presentations for today. Just a quick round for everybody who was here. Thank you. Nice job. There was definitely a little tension in the air last night.
What is the real motivation for you to create this company? What is it really? Is it really something that you love, or is it simply something that you want to flip and sell? And there's a difference. One is not higher than the other in terms of morally, perhaps. I'm not about to make that moral judgment. If it's something that you truly, truly, truly love, normally you wouldn't think of making something to sell.
There are different companies in Pi at different stages of development. Some of them intend to get funded. Some of them are going to bootstrap. Some of them are going to, keep doing what they're doing. Some of them are going to be potential takeouts. That's sort of up to each one of the founders. Our job is to figure out how to generate as much value as we can for them in the time that we have with them to help make them successful, whatever that success looks like for them.
You want to match up your company with VCs that are interested in the kind of thing you're doing and how you're doing it. A fundamental tenet across all venture-backed companies is that they do have to have this high growth potential, because VCs are investing equity dollars in companies with the expectation of a significant return. But beyond that, there's no generic answer, and you have to be really careful about falling into the trap of configuring what you're doing, to fit this generic thing that doesn't really exist.
Nobody's ever gotten an investment out of a pitch day, a demo day. Nobody's ever gotten their money right there on the spot. It always leads to follow-up discussion and the opportunity to tell the story in a more human, interactive way. But you got to start somewhere, and getting those butts in seats matters.
In the tech world, If you don't ship, you're nothing. You're doing fundraising, whether it's through Kickstarter, traditional VC, or Angel, you need to be able to show that you have the track record, that you are someone who can ship, that this is an idea that is going to be well executed.
I think in the beginning, the only thing you have is a story. And if it's compelling enough, like we see with Kickstarter, which is all storytelling, you have a video that tells a story and then asks for something. That's how people are raising money. You have nothing. You only have your words.
The CEO has to hone and craft it and tell it over and over and over again.
But also it really helps yourself internalizing key things of the product, which allows you to very easily use mental shortcuts to kind of move it to the next level.
Fundamentally, it's a life skill to be able to present your company.
Tell me what it does. Does it save me time? Does it save me money? If so, how much? How is it different from your major competitor? All of those questions are swirling around in the head of every audience member, VC or not. And I think the companies at Pi that have been successful have answered those questions. You know, they've posed the problem and then come in with the solution, and then people get it.
There is something about seeing someone on stage making a formal presentation and how they handle the situation, how they're able to communicate.
If after this much time you can't pitch, then that's a problem.
If you've got somebody who comes across as uncertain about their direction or comes across as not having sort of a strong enough personality to stomach all those ups and downs, you're going to be much less apt to invest in them.
And I've seen venture capitalists, I've watched them sit there, and as they're sitting there and someone's presenting, their arms fold, heads go down, phones come out, it's over.
You're on the receiving end and you know that the person is giving a performance but doesn't fundamentally believe what they're saying or isn't really emotionally engaged with the business they're doing. And I don't think that that's particularly effective.
Do they feel it? Is there excitement in their eyes? Is this something that they're passionate about?
I mean, even when it's a performance, you can tell when somebody has real conviction and real belief in what they're doing versus it being sort of that I'm going to speak business school speak and throw out lots of terms.
You wouldn't say, I optimize my calendar to leverage my schedule and ultimately monetize my business, because human beings don't talk like that in a coffee shop or over a beer. But when we get up to present, that's exactly how we talk. And it's just meaningless nonsense.
I think that the investors are sensing that, whether it's consciously or not. If you have any level of sort of emotional intelligence, at least you can.
Yes, they do their due diligence, but there is a huge amount of human touch in there and gut instinct. Don't discount that.
Throw out all the rules, just get up there and be naked. Just tell everyone, this is what I love, this is what I want to do, this is how I think I can change the world, or this is my contribution in my lifetime, what I think I can do.
But yeah, there's always anxiety. When one person is on stage, you are representing more than just yourself, but the hard work of everybody involved.
Hi everybody, I'm Marshall Kirkpatrick, CEO of Little Bird. Influencers may not be the people that you think they are. In every topic of interest, these days there are experts who have won the respect of their peers on the web, but yet whom you and I may have never heard of before.
Even though we make up about half the workforce, only 18% of software developers are women.
You've probably been to a conference like this before. Raise your hand. But that guy speaking, he might be really interesting. We just never know it from a video like this.
Companies like Google and Twitter spend millions of dollars every single year to maintain labs full of these devices and employ QA teams just to run tests on all these devices. The rest of us, we're left to push to the market and hope for the best.
We're a distributed, real-time analytics platform to collect, enrich, and analyze data. But that probably doesn't answer a lot of questions about what we do. So let's just talk about movies.
The reason people have been collecting ticket stubs, these literally pieces of paper, is because they're trophies from emotional experiences we not only want to hang on to, but that we use as social proof.
It takes guts, it takes ideas, it takes inspiration, it takes creativity to walk away from a normal job, to walk away from everything that this culture is normally telling you need to do to get by. And walking out onto the edge of the diving board and sawing it off behind yourself.
You're selling your story. you're selling a vision in a very early stage.